Between the orbit of Saturn and Uranus lives an asteroid with a little name and an even bigger purpose. Before you can move beyond the limitations of your current 3D reality and enter the age of Aquarius, you must cross the Rainbow Bridge, become your own shaman, and heal yourself. You hold the key to the fifth dimension, and you are the medicine. This is the Chronicles of Chyron.
Hello, star people. Thank you for joining me today on Chronicles of Chyron. I'm your host, Chrystopher King. I'm a Chironic healer, shamanic astrologer, ascension guide, and medicine alchemist. And in this space, we dive deep into all things ascension, awakening, astrology, extra-dimensionals, plant medicine, and of course, healing. Chyron is an asteroid named after the mythological centaur and is known as the wounded healer in traditional astrology. But in 5D astrology, he is the healer, the shaman, and the rainbow bridge. And as a living embodiment of Chyron, I am here to assist you in bridging the gap between dimensions, tapping out of the false matrix, and into your highest, most divine self. And I'm so excited and honored to have our next guest today. His name is Sam Gibbs Morris, who is also someone who played a part in my own medicine and spiritual journey. Sam is a speaker, spiritual teacher, conscious relationship coach, psychedelic guide, and the founder of Transcnd Breathwork, and that's Transcend with no E. Sam has aligned his life purpose with his gifts to hold space for other humans to heal and expand their conscious awareness by transcending their edges and enlarging their capacity to hold, receive, and experience the totality of their lives, becoming an embodied presence in their lives. Sam, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing so well, man. So great to be here. Thank you so much for asking. So proud of the development, the growth you've experienced, man. It's awesome to see this.
Yeah, and that coming from you, that means a lot because it's been almost a year since I worked with you in
Wow.
an experience. I know, because time completely melted away, and I do want to talk about that experience during this time. Not just to get a free integration session, but really illustrate the power of these different types of medicines and all the roles that they play and how they show up in us. And when I have people on this show, I'm really looking for people who embody that Chyron archetype, and if I'm not mistaken, you do have some Virgo in you.
Yeah, Virgo moon.
Okay, so the Chyron rules Virgo. So if you've got any Virgo placements, sixth house placements, there's some of that Chyron energy that's naturally in you, which is the healer and someone who can really push people and their edges beyond. I love what you do in your work. So I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we're going to go back into your history, how you got here.
Okay. So what I do, it's funny. It's ever evolving. Right now what it is that I have recognized that, and we talked a little bit about this before, but men need to decide. Like, there's a lot of waffling going on. So what I do is I get men right. I get men to clear away. I've worked with women too. It's mostly men. It's clearing away what drives faulty decision making, which leads to self-doubt, because it leads to a decision made out of an insecurity or a trauma bond or some sort of wound will most likely end up in a quote unquote bad situation, which is again like a hindsight thing. That breeds self-doubt, low self-worth, sometimes shame. So all these things that we pick up along the way, what I do is I help people clear away this stuff so that they can make decisions about their partner, about their purpose, about themselves with this clarity that is unclouded by all this past stuff or what society tells them or a story their mom told them or their dad told them or their grandfather told them that they've been living by for 20 years. Clearing away all that, when we get right with our nervous system, when we get right with our ego, and it's not about ego death, it's about ego integration. Let's get on the same team, ego, because we need the ego. So getting yourself right with the internal structure, the nervous system, the energy fields, the vortex, the central column that holds all the chi, like getting that so in order that you feel so good about yourself and so solid in your presence that you're leading from the heart, you're not up in your head, you're making good decisions. It really comes down to how does one become an embodied presence in their life?
Yeah, yeah, and I really love the work that you're doing because
Thank you.
most of the people I work with are non-binary or female, because
Hmm.
my energy just attracts that. And I've also had a lot of trauma around the father figure and males.
Hmm.
So it would be different as a heterosexual male, as a non-binary pansexual person. The
Hmm.
male energy used to frighten me on a very deep level, and I didn't even know that was what was happening. I couldn't
Hmm.
look them in the eye. And the work that you're doing, because I am man just as much as I am woman, and being there with you in that medicine experience was so healing for me, holding your hand. I mean, it was just that extra icing on the cake of
Hmm.
the big cake that I ate when I was with you. But I want to go back to what you said about ego death versus integration, because in human design, I'm an ego manifester. So when
Mm.
people are like, transcend your ego, get rid of your ego, I know
Yeah.
that they do mean take the ego with you, but the words matter. And I take offense to it because my ego not only is like, I like being me, but my ego also is like, help me catch up then.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
that's good.
like, don't leave me behind in some fantastical way. Take me with you, because the ego, wouldn't you say the ego is just a awareness of self, or being embodied in a self rather than being the all? And we came here to be a self, but we didn't come here to be as separate as we have been.
100% agree with everything you just said. And I love that. As you were talking, it was like, we have things in our body, lungs, heart, that operate pretty much unconsciously without us doing anything. And they keep us going. The ego falls into, if you want to like bridge the gap here between like an intangible ego and the physical body of it, the human form, the ego is the same thing. The ego is something that when in right relation, and it's really about having a right relation with it, is how does it operate to support you in what you're doing? Like your heart beats, like your lungs breathe, like your eyes see, like whatever it is, how you digest food, all these physical things. The ego, it's not tangible because it's not an actual human thing. And when you say bring me with you, that's the fear of the ego, is not being needed. Is like, wait, how are you going to survive if but you need me to survive? If you're trying to kill me or exile me, I'm going to get really unhappy and drop grenades all over your life because I'm in panic mode. The ego becomes in panic mode.
Now,
And so it's, go ahead.
how does this show up for the so-called male ego that we've been hearing about for so long? Because that is something that I deal with in medicine journeys and healing work, and just in my
Yeah.
life in general, because um, non-heterosexual males tend to be male. Okay, they tend to
Yeah.
hold in that energy still. They're not
Yeah.
quite like me, gay men. I don't
Yeah.
really identify as that, but I do find a level, where feminine energy their ego can go into a victimhood. The male energies can go into quite a few other different territories.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about that, because that's what's a lot of that is keeping them from even coming to my retreats. I'm like, where are you all?
Yeah. Yeah. This is a really deep conversation, and it's so necessary right now because I'll preface this by saying this, that the women are literally pleading with these men that you're talking about to get in
Yes.
the arena and do this. Like, meet me here. I am here. I'm raising my standards. I'm
Yes.
becoming more embodied. I'm becoming the goddess, the warrior, the prince, the
Yes.
priestess, like all
Yes.
these things. And the men are like, I don't know. I don't know if I need that. I don't
You're
know. I don't
making
want
it
to do it.
up. Why are you
Yeah.
doing that?
Yeah.
Most of my clients who come to retreats have been female, and one of the biggest hurdles that they have are their partners, their male
Yeah.
partners.
100%. And
Coming home and feeling the magic just be squashed.
yes, because I'll tell you what it is. It is that the masculine wound that we're talking about, these men, the wound they carry, I am not enough and I will never be enough. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve this life. I don't deserve the beautiful woman standing in front of me. So when the women go do this, the men essentially see, I'm getting left in the dust. Fuck it. I'm just going to isolate.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, they, instead of being, answering the call, they pretty much ignore the call and just look at their women as, oh, look, I'm not enough. She's leaving me anyways. And they shut down. They
Yeah.
shut down intimacy. They shut down humor. They shut down joy. They shut down flirting. They shut down dating their woman. They just completely shut down because that story of I'm not enough the ego says, look, you were right. You're not enough. Look at her. Like, you're not enough. You suck.
And what's so interesting about those lies, because the ego only lies to protect us. It's not this insidious thing. And the ego also is so powerful because these wives, these girlfriends, these partners have every intention of wanting their partner to come with them. And there are many times where I have to explain to clients, I'm like, first, before you go fixing your husband and trying to save him, let's make sure that you've got the mask completely on yourself before you go giving it to him. But I know that your intentions are good. And the hurdle is they want them to do it so bad, but they tend to want to go the other way. It's like this, which makes the chasm or the schism that much, or the valley that much deeper and wider.
Yep. And it's because men see that schism, that gap, as all my insecurities, all my fraud, all my unworthiness. She will see me in that gap until I meet her or perceive where she is, whatever it is. It's all a skewed perception.
Yeah.
In that gap, she will see me like I see me, and I can't handle that.
Ooh. That's really big, because having a lot of male in me and being in a male body, I absolutely know what that feels like. Okay.
If you really ask a woman, like a really grounded woman that's in the work and not taking it too far and being in it, what she wants most is a man that is making the effort. That's it. Like, just make the effort. Just like show that you're in the arena doing the work. I experienced this recently. Just get in the arena and just be like, I'm here and I'm willing to be messy. But if you're in the arena, the women they love that. And that's what they want.
Yes. And that's a great point, because just being in the arena, because the feminine energy within me, within you, but definitely the female body and that entity is so powerful. It is a crystal of magnanimous power. And so if you just get in the arena, the process of coherence will call you forth if you surrender to it.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to take us back in time a little bit, before you were so embodied. Okay. Because most of us who are medicine holders and embodiments of Chyron, there was the opposite at some point usually going on. Okay. So that we could really feel that polarity and that wholeness. So take us back there.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. I love the way you framed that. So if you had asked me in, say, 2010, what was your childhood like? I'd have been like, yeah, it was pretty damn great. Like, I grew up in Vermont, small town in the woods, riding bikes through the woods all summer, exploring. Good school, small schools, good public schools. I was playing tennis and golf all summer, skiing all winters. Lots of love in my house. No physical, verbal, sexual abuse. Like, I mean, there was fights and stuff, but it was never to the extreme of like I had a terrible childhood.
Right.
And then in 2012, this was the tail end of a 18-year run with cocaine and alcohol, and it ended.
It's also the year 2012 comes up in every single episode on here.
Really? Wow.
For being another, yes, of course it does. But that was my year, so please let's go into this. This is awesome.
Yeah. So I'll go right to the day. November 21st, 2012. I was sitting at my kitchen table by myself, 4 a.m. in the morning. My quote unquote friends had just left, and friends includes my drug dealer, had just left, and I was there by myself with a pile of cocaine and a bottle of rum. And I don't know what it was, but there was a wave of something that hit my entire house and me that said, you cannot continue like this for one more minute. And I was supposed to move out of my house in 4 hours. And I had not packed up a damn thing. And I had spent all my money, like $5,000, on the previous week of partying with drugs, cocaine and alcohol, just really just blowing it out. And when I say blowing it out, like that was the norm.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I can't go on like this. The cocaine, I flushed it. I dumped the rum, and I called 911 and checked myself into the psych ward. And then I went to rehab, and then I went to another rehab, and then I went to sober living. Now, the thing that happened was that when I got to this was the first time I had been in and out of rehabs and jail and AA for the previous 5 or 6 years, and didn't put much time. I was like, I'm not really here for the long run anyways. So now this is the first time that I'm actually like, okay, I got to do whatever it takes to never ever go back. And so I sitting in these rooms, rehabs, sober livings, AA meetings, hearing about all these people with really, really messed up childhood, really, really like painful childhood experiences, a lot of abuse, a lot of like alcoholic homes, destructive homes, like these things. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, why am I here? Like, I don't have, there's no part of my story that matches up to this.
Right.
And so I'm like, so what that did is it forced me to say, okay, maybe there's something I'm not seeing here. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing about my childhood that did predispose me to earn this place here. And so when I got to looking, what happened is that I found out that my mom, when she first got pregnant with me, like the first couple of weeks, she actually thought she had cancer. And so the energy that I received was like, oh God, like I have cancer in my body, like essentially rejection right off the bat. And so then what happened is that I then developed, I called in like asthma, allergies, eczema. I would choke on my food a lot as a kid. And what I did is I called these things in because I was so fearful of rejection. I said, if I'm super sick and struggling through my childhood, they can't reject me because they'll have to pay attention to me. Because I thought I was cancer.
Whoa.
And this is plant medicine stuff this is the value of plant medicine, is that you get so much clarity on these things.
Yes.
Because this is not like stuff that the human can get its head around.
Right.
Right. So I did all the work as a human. So I looked back at my childhood, and what I knew about my childhood was this: that I had asthma really, really badly, that I had severe food allergies, that I experienced a lot of choking on my food, like Heimlich maneuver done on me 6, 7, 8 times as a kid. So I had all these experiences, and what it did is it created this real disconnect between me and the rest of the world. Like everyone around me, my friends, my sisters, no one else was having the experience that I was having. And I felt broken. I felt shameful. I got bullied for it. Kids would like literally come up to me and feign having an asthma attack in the hallway at school. So I felt this incredible dissonance between me and my peers, which later in life manifested as social anxiety. Later in life manifested as carrying deep shame that caused cancer. I had cancer 3 times. That was all shame based. Wow. A suicide attempt in 2009 that was fueled by so much shame. I'm so shameful of who I am. I'm going to go ahead and jump off this balcony. Whoa. And so when I look back at my childhood, I said, oh my God, like I was in constant fear and threat of everything around me. That be people, that be food, that be the air, everything was like, am I going to survive this day? And in therapy, I learned that like, I have a big like impulse reflex, because when you're experiencing like every day is a question mark, you don't have the long-term program installed. Like you don't see like, oh, in 5 years, I'm going to do this. So, as I was like, I got on my path of owning my own business, working with business coaches, they're like, let's do a 3, 5, 10-year plan. And I'm like, huh? Like, I don't know. Like, I can't even like, and I couldn't figure out why. And this all led back to this clearing of this childhood, this shame and this guilt and this, like it was depression and anxiety and stories. And so one of the stories was, I need to be saved. So that meant that if I'm ever going to survive, I need to find people, places, and things that are going to save me. So that looked like moving around a lot through addiction. Living in Miami, shit gets bad. I need to go back to North Carolina, where I was in college, where I have friends. Shit got bad there. I'm going to go back to Florida and have that save me, and find different girls in different places, and just say, as soon as I hear that I love you, what I was actually hearing was, okay, it's your job to save me now. So I love you too. And we did. And under the contract that I wasn't aware of and she wasn't aware of was that no matter what I do, I need you to save me. So I'm going to create reasons that I will feel safe. Because so beyond that, I need to be saved, struggling and chaos and you saving me was actually my love language. So I would create, whether that was cheating, whether that was just, doing something just dumb and stupid that would just cause a problem in the relationship. What that did is it made me feel loved, because I learned growing up. And again, like at the surface, no shortage of love in my household at all. And when I had an asthma attack, a severe asthma attack at 2 a.m., and the whole family had to get up and rush me to the hospital, and then, I was in the hospital for a week, and people would come visit me. That what I registered in my little body was, there's more love there, there's more attention there. So victimhood. I was a victim of this, and I got a lot of things from it. So as I started to flush this stuff out, doing the work as a human, and again, this caused a lot of destruction in my life. And, essentially alcoholism or addiction was me creating reasons to be saved, because my parents would swoop in and send me to rehab. I would go to rehab and get the girl back, save me. Like, it was all coming back to this.
Yeah.
And so, as I did 6 years in AA. And then after about 6 years, I said, there's not a lot here for me anymore. The resonance of, I'm an alcoholic, Sam, I'm an alcoholic every morning.
Yeah.
I was like, I know enough about identity to know that that's not serving me.
Right.
And also what was happening is that I was, cycles were repeating. So I was doing all this work, going through the steps. I was there for 6 years. I went through the steps probably 10 times, different sponsors moving around, whatever. And I would be like, okay, but I'm depressed again, or this anxiety is still here, or I'm struggling financially. Like, these things would just not go away. And I got to the point where I said, okay, as a human being, I have literally beat every horse to death that I know about. Every stone that I am aware of has been turned over and turned over and turned over again. And there's no moss on any of these stones. So what else can I do now? So I decided that when I moved to Austin, I said, this is my break from AA, and I'm going to I started microdosing mushrooms, and that was the first thing. Psychedelics have been a part of my life since I was 18.
Right.
Different intentions and, all the things. And I see the value in it. And so this time it was my first step back onto the path, or probably onto the path for the first time, of like, okay, now it's about consciousness. It's about expansion. It's about shutting down that fight or flight so that I can actually get some work done.
Yeah.
And because if you're in fight or flight, constant threats, all you're going to be doing is handling threats. There's no time to get any deeper than a surface level symptom of something. Yeah. So I learned that scarcity was a symptom. I learned that depression was a symptom. I learned that these broken relationships, all symptoms of my shame, of my need for chaos, because it essentially, creating, it's so paradoxical, because creating, quote unquote, shameful experiences to cover up more shame was because, like, the attention would make me feel good for a minute, just like a snorting cocaine. But yeah. And so the microdosing led me to a couple masterminds that were kind of psychedelic based. And then I got to Wachuma, and then Bufo hit, and Bufo, that's the one. That's the one. And I did it. Funny thing is, I did it for the first time on the day before my birthday in 2020. So December 4th, 2020. And it was literally like, the timing was impact. It was a rebirth. It was everything. That was the day, the healing that I needed since the day I was born. So doing that work as a human, and uncovering that, okay, underneath that beautiful surface level childhood was this really, really pretty traumatic experience of like little lower T trauma events, like boom, 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 boom. And then some bigger ones in there of like choking on food. Yeah. Basically near-death experiences like 2 or 3 times a year. And so uncovering all this, and then, Bufo changed, like, completely shifted my life. And that led me to Mexico, where I did my apprenticeship. And that led me to Peru, where I did ayahuasca. And then, once I stepped onto that path, I got on the path, and it's been, upward trajectory since 2012. And since 2019, when I got to Austin, pretty much like hockey stick.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that, because so much of that, reading off your bio, I was like, this sounds a lot like me. He also spells things differently, like I do. So there's a wanting to cause an intentional glitch in the matrix, but it's because I also had a childhood that I thought was pretty good for the most part, except for my dad, and like it took a long time to cover what all these things were. Like, I have retained the memory of when before I was able to speak. I was maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 months old. I'm not really sure, but I'm in the crib, and I can see everyone walking in the hallway, but my voice doesn't work. And it was real. This wasn't a dream. And I would tell my mom about it as a 5 and 6 year old. And she's like, you don't remember that. And I remembered it ever since. And that was something that came up in the Bufo experience,
Yeah, I remember.
that memory of them walking under the door. And I always had this abandonment wound, and it does go beyond this lifetime and this star system. But even just in this experience, it took so many people are like, I don't need medicine. You don't need medicine to get there. You can meditate your way there. And it's like, well, you don't need food either. You can stare into the sun. You can. We can start doing that and save the planet that way. You get to enjoy the fruits that are here. You get to
Yeah.
enjoy what is here. And so it's like these experiences were necessary because we almost had a contract
Hmm.
with these medicines in some way. And yes, our upward, because I feel the same way. My upward trajectory was the beginning of my medicine experiences many years ago, and I've been drawn to it for years. I mean, even as an 18, 19-year-old, looking up
Hmm.
ayahuasca
Yeah.
retreats, thinking I went and did something like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having these experiences are truly terrifying and hard and
Hmm.
magical and incredible. It gives you the full spectrum of everything, like meditating for 6 months on the top of the mountain would, I'm sure. But that's
Yeah.
why we consider them to be technology,
Yes.
shamanic, ancient, um, timeless technology.
Yep.
So tell us about a little bit more about your journey into Bufo, but in the medicine world, because I know that
Yeah.
you microdosed. So because I hold 13 different medicines in my profile. And so I look at it like on your way into Wonderland, before you get to the crux of the biscuit, if you will, there's many different lessons you learn and different characters that come forth that offer a different lesson or a different pivot on your way into the woods. So I want to go more into the medicine experience because as a male, there's a lacking there in that world as well, I am finding,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah. And
resistance to it as well.
yeah, and I think let's just call it what it is. Like even white male,
Yes.
it's and I feel like I have these conversations with myself a lot. Like, who am I? And then it's like, okay, so but what I've landed on is that who am I? Who am I to doubt that this medicine has chosen me? It
Right.
doesn't matter the color of my skin. It's like it's my soul. It's that past life. It's that karmic contract. Like
It's
the medicines are
interesting.
way more intelligent than we are.
The one medicine that I was really just, my ego was really torn up about holding or offering to someone was ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And it's because of the mythology and the folklore around it, and
Hmm.
her being this vicious Kali grandmother who's jealous of other medicines and don't, and I used to think that she was going to punish me because I was white, because I didn't do it in Peru, because when I didn't work with ayahuasca in Peru, I worked with it in the United States, and that's how I came to know her. Okay.
Hmm.
Just like
Yeah.
I ate a banana the other day that was not grown here. So there's a new way to look at this. And as white people, I think it's important to have conversations about this because I absolutely honor um,
Yeah.
those ancient traditions, and I honor, I have Native American and Celt and Irish and Welsh in me, and I can feel all of that in me. But I look very white, and and I've got blue eyes. And so I did not have to go through what many have gone through in this lifetime. I do
Yes.
remember other lifetimes where I put in the work here.
Yeah.
That does mean something. But in the world right now, we do need to be sensitive and mindful and respectful. So, and it's interesting because Bufo was one that, and I definitely want to talk about it because many people have read about ayahuasca. They've seen Vine of the Soul on Gaia, and everyone's talking about mushrooms and MDMA and LSD.
Hmm.
And Bufo is one that is a little bit more obscure still, and I want to go
Yeah.
into it. And one of the things about it that I hesitated about was that it was from an animal. And I do know that the animal's okay.
Hmm.
It can be harvested in different ways. So it felt in alignment with me. And it obviously was calling me. I had to let go of any kind of strictness about being a vegan or not wanting to use something from an animal. I had to reconcile something and follow the call anyway, and I'm very glad I did.
Yeah.
So the first dose was interesting because it was what you called the handshake, and I
Yeah.
was so I would describe the handshake, and for people listening, Bufo is 5-MeO DMT, so it is going to give you that ayahuasca type of experience, just like really
Yeah.
fast. And
Yeah.
it's a different spirit. It's also very different than taking DMT, the isolated compound, which
100%.
may or may not give you more than a hot air balloon ride into galactic heaven, okay? But you can feel grandmother when she's coming at you and doing her thing. And I could feel Bufo, but it was not, it felt more masculine to me,
Hmm.
but it felt not, see, grandmother is an alien, but she still comes with a kind of feminine. You can see her as the grandmother or the mother. This had a very amphibian feel, like
Yeah.
totally. And what I mean by that is the handshake was interesting because I saw colors and shapes, and it felt like I had taken 0.5 grams of psilocybin, or like when Aya's first coming on, I
Yeah.
felt aware, but someone like me, I was like, you could have given me way less than that. I could still go there. And I had something over my eyes, and there was all this stuff moving in my body there, just like in other psychedelic experiences, your body can wake up and your sacral can flex and your body's doing
Hmm.
things. And then all I heard and saw was these, like, out of that darkness was these white hands, witch, witch. And I have had dreams of choking and waking up, pulling things out of my throat that aren't there. And I've had witch wounds big time in my
Hmm.
lifetime. And so that was really interesting to me. And I knew what was happening, but I also was just like, what is this about to lead to, right? And then we went for the first dose. And for those who don't know, Bufo is the entire reason I chose or was called to do Bufo was because I wanted to not have a choice in the surrender process. Okay.
Yep.
I wanted to know what that felt like and almost earn it. That's very masculine of me, but I
Yeah.
felt like I owed it to myself because I also have such a fear of going to sleep, and like losing consciousness really fast has been something that has scared me my entire life. And so anything that when I'm really, really, really tired and I start to pass out, I like jump and panic because I'm afraid I'm going to die. There's this fear of death that's really deep in there because of how I've gone out so many times.
Yeah.
So it does not give you a choice. And I
Mhm.
just remember taking the hit and knowing that I was going to fall back and not know anything for a period of time and be gone, if you will, and was very anxious. But once you do it, you do it. And all I remember was hold it, hold it, hold it. That's all I remember. And
Uh,
I just remember, I don't remember falling back either. All I remember is hold it, hold it, hold it, and then opening my eyes immediately.
yeah.
And being told that there was 20 minutes in between that was so crazy because it felt instant.
Yeah.
There was nothing that happened in between that time that I can remember in this consciousness, okay?
Right.
And so when I came back, it was extremely aggressive. It was animalistic, as I knew it to be. I had seen documentaries and things about it for years before that. I just was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And I do remember just being along for the ride and just doing it and participating. I fully participated. I didn't just lay there and let it sort of do something. I was like gonna get something out. I even remember puking, and there was no puke anywhere when I was fully back. Like,
Yeah.
I know I was screaming. I do know that you all were
Yeah.
present for that, but there was stuff coming out that wasn't on the blanket when I was
No.
fully back, which
Yeah.
was freaky as shit. And
Uh-huh.
I it took me into so many different places so fast, but what it felt like, because I did it again after that. And I thought,
Yep.
what the hell am I doing? But also you said something, you were like, okay, you just dug deep into something. Now it's time to push through to something. I remember both times when I was in it, looking up, at the Oculus, the whatever you call that, the where the sun
Skylight. Yeah.
skylight, and just seeing psychedelic shapes, but they were in the shape of like not reptilian but amphibian scaly frog, because
Yeah.
Bufo comes from a toad. It looked animal print looking to me, and I could feel this kind of thing happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it felt to me, and I've described this to many people, and recently I described to someone that it felt like regeneration Scorpio energy. It felt regenerative sex. It felt what we would call dark too the whole time. It was just like sex, regeneration, rape, pounding. It was so it primal. And
That's good.
and then I explained that to someone recently, and they said, well, that's interesting because that secretion usually happens for the toad at different times. It's not all the time. And one of them is mating season.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt the mating and the primal, the tadpole becoming
Yeah.
that whole process of that, and how it was moving through me. And then the second dose took me, wasn't as aggressive when I came back. It was more visionary. It was like I got to push into the mystical part of it more. And that's when it took me to that memory of me being in the crib, which I had remembered all my life, but didn't realize what that signified and what that represented, was that I'm separate from you all. You all can't hear me. No one's going to save me, because I kept trying to climb my way out and I was so scared I was going to fall. 8 months old, like having these complex thoughts about things, because I also was like, I'm such a talker and I have to go through this whole like remembering to talk again. Oh, Jesus. That was so frustrating too. But then I looked at my hands, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you, every time I've worked with psychedelics, whether it's psilocybin, because usually I've worked with combinations of things where you'll get something at the beginning, or we'll have a cocktail of something. Ayahuasca is something I've worked with a lot. Ayahuasca and psilocybin together in specific ratios. And every time I've had experiences like that, an old man would come to me, and he would be different ages each time, but I thought he was my grandfather at first, and he would be over here, and when I would look, there would be nothing there, and it was like like something on the tip of your tongue. And about 3 years ago, I was having a medicine experience for myself, and he came again, and I realized that he was my future self. And this time he was like in his 40s. He had very little hair on top, but I could tell that he was not super old, but I have seen him much older before. And when I had this experience, he didn't come to me, he was in me. Because my hands because people are going to think, oh, well, you were on medicine, of course. Bufo lifts within like 15 to 20 minutes. You feel like you're just back, but lighter. And looking at my hands at the point of being pretty much back, like all the shapes and stuff were done, you all looked the same, because you all looked like a YouTube video that had been sped up.
Yeah, when he said that.
I was like, I couldn't wait for that to stop, because it was so unnerving watching time just melt in front of you.
Yeah.
And my hands, I remember looking down at them and going, fuck, they're so dirty. That's what I thought. And then I realized that there was age spots all over my hands and my arms. and the wrinkles in my hands were super deep, and my fingers, my thumbs and fingers were thicker than they are now. And it just kept morphing. The wrinkles would like get deep, and then they would smooth out, and then deep, and then they would smooth out, and the marks, the freckles and age spots were like pulsing and that sort of thing. But when they would be completely there, they cast a shadow the way my wrinkles actually do. It wasn't an overlay like you see with other experiences. It was fully, I was like, I do not want to look in the mirror right now, because I see this. It was so visceral and real that I think what I said was like, these are his hands.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, my fear of aging completely just went away. Because that
Wow.
was a huge fear. I worked in luxury skincare for years. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just lucky I don't look like this right now, because I totally could. I was planning on it at some point, and I dreaded it. I'm like, I hate that I have to be that person that does that, but I
Yeah.
don't want to be ugly because I'm already ugly. Chiron,
Uh,
big Chiron energy.
yeah.
I'm pretty ugly. Aging is going to make me more ugly. And I already can't find a good relationship with these men, because the whole thing, or everything is so intertwined. So
Yeah.
that piece, I had already cleared my attractiveness and body issues, but the white hairs coming in here were now bothering me. This is a new one. Now they don't.
Yeah. Nice.
I
Love that.
mean, that sounds small, but that's life changing.
Yeah. Like
So,
you're operating without that fear. I mean, talk about free bandwidth, free space. Like,
oh
holy shit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My potential is much greater because I'm not. And think about that fear as a sickness or a kind of cinder block at the bottom of the ocean or something. It's just not part of my song anymore. So the frequency is finer. Yeah, it feels like that.
It's amazing.
So tell us about what happened to me and Bufo in general, because we haven't really discussed Bufo in this way on this show.
Yeah. So I mean, you pretty much covered what happened to you. Like it was that first initial kind of like kind of like shaking off or digging in or kind of burrowing. And
Yeah.
then that I feel like that's the like the pop of the bubble. Like we see it a lot, is that initial one can be like chaotic or frantic or kind of rough or quick or like that. And then
Yeah.
it's like you kind of, and what I've landed on recently, and this is your experience as well, is that once you got past that initial like poof, you pop into like a new sphere of consciousness. And then it's not about like depth or levels. It's because consciousness is like the all, it's not, consciousness doesn't have levels or um uh barriers or anything like that. Consciousness is just all encompassing. It is the all of everything. And so it's more about now you get to explore. And that's what you did. Like you found this exploration, you landed on, this fear of aging, and you landed like all these things that like were just cleared of your system, because once you pop through that first initial level, and this is why we offer more than one in our ceremonies, is because there is so much to explore once you get through that. Like if you just pop through that first one, you're kind of floating, free falling. Whereas if you give if you had the chance to say, I'm going to see what's here for a little bit, and one was enough for you. Some people it's the 3 and the 4. And when you can like take that time to say, okay, I have a whole new experience of life, like that life will never be the same moment is the
Mhm.
proof. And it really, and we can get this in a second, but once you have that, then it says, okay, now I have it's a new way, new eyes, new feeling, new body, new heart, new neural pathways, new nervous system. What else is here for me now? And then so now you've taken a year and you've been exploring what else is here for you. And
Yes.
that's powerful. And I think what I've really come to is that DMT is what we get flooded with, moments before death. And that's why you hear people that have had near death experiences or died and come back. They talk about essentially that's a Bufo experience,
Yeah.
and so the people that have had the courage and had the opportunity and earned the right to sit with this medicine in this lifetime have essentially experienced death, and they recognize that okay, so that's like this is where we go when we die. And of course this is not like hurry up, let's get there, but this is
Right.
like a deep cellular kind of unknowing, but knowing of like, there's nothing to fear. Like there is more, and there's like another reincarnation and all this stuff. So the people that have experienced this have this ability to walk through life with a completely different perspective and consciousness. And I remember like the first time I did it, I was in Sedona on the side of a river, and it was a meditative dose, so a little more than a handshake, not quite the full blast off.
Yeah.
And the first thought was,
Well, but
wow,
you
life.
were in Sedona, so
Yeah,
so
magnified. Yeah,
you needed to use a little less. Yeah.
totally. And it was at the end of a Wachuma ceremony, so
Oh,
I was
whoa.
fully I was in it.
Yes.
And um, my first thought was, okay, so life will never be the same. The unicity that I felt and the freedom that I felt and all the things I felt were just, there was no going back from that. Like, you can eat mushrooms and yeah, there's no going back. Like, once you experience certain things, it's then you integrate and you level up. This one was the first one that was like, I know for a fact, like, there is nothing going to be ever the same again.
Yeah.
And then like maybe a month or two later is when I really sat with it for the first time. And that was when when I came like out of it, um, the medicine was like, where I knew that was the healing that I had needed every day since the day I was born, because I came into the world fearing rejection from the cancer. And I came into the world not being able to breathe. I came into the world with shame. I came into the world with past death of being strangled. I came into the world of drowning in a past life. All these things that
Ew.
I brought into this world. The medicine is like, don't, I got you, man. I got you, bro. Like, I'm gonna clear this. I'm just gonna like wipe the slate clean for you. And then it was stop. It was surrender, full surrender. Just, it's, you're making things way so more difficult than they need to be. Stop fighting. And when I say stop fighting, like, I wasn't a belligerent. I wasn't a belligerent drunk. I'm not a belligerent person. The internal battle was insane, to
Right.
the point
Yeah.
where like I could, no wonder I couldn't get anything done, because it was a constant level 1000 volume of like a swarm of bees in my head
Yeah.
that after Bufo immediately dropped to a 3.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in meditation, like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 a week later. And I had been meditating for 15 years off and on, like through all my recovery and Buddhism studies and Hindu studies.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat down to meditate, and I my first thought was like, I have actually never meditated before in my life, because of the level of silence and stillness that I was able to experience
Yeah.
post Bufo.
Yeah.
And it's never gone away. That's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And like, how about some more of this?
Yes.
And I'm in no hurry to stop having these experiences.
I'm not either. And people are like, you're supposed to transcend the plant medicine experience. And I'm like, absolutely, you're supposed to believe that you can have the life that you want, and you can talk to the extra dimensionals, and you can have a relationship with your higher self without taking something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you get to have them as teachers and friends. And also, it's for us, this is not about deep trauma work anymore. It's about upgrades. It's about
Yes.
because there are clients who are on their fifth or sixth retreat with me, and I used to go, because my goal used to be years ago was to see how few retreats that they would come to.
Ah.
And then I made them so magical and incredible that people come back, but I still was like, uh-oh, I'm getting people addicted to plant medicine. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
disempower them. But I've noticed through my experience, like, these people are coming in now, and there'll be a little bit of work there. Of course, there's fine tuning happening, but then most of the time, they're not in some kind of purging. Oh my
Yeah.
God, remember this thing happening to me? They're watching extra dimensionals in their luxury room that they're in, downloading rainbow light into their body, and they're just sitting there like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's what you came here to do. Because yes, you're gonna do this without it, but you get to have it. Just
Yeah.
like food, we get to still eat it, even though there are extra dimensional beings and future versions of humans who do not speak or eat food and do those things anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's really honor where we're at right now. And if you have a good relationship with these medicines, and when I say good, what is good? If you have a relationship that's in alignment with you and you're in your integrity when you
Yeah.
approach them, it's only ever going to level you up. My future self now has come to me and wants to channel through me. And I'm like, Okay, well, which version of you? Because there's an infinite number of you.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that my higher self, my future self? It's all one. It is you,
Yeah.
it's me. And I'm like, this is interesting because just in the past couple of months, I'm on a 30-day detox, as I was telling you before we started the interview. This was guided by the higher self slash future self. I don't even want to call it future self. Let's call it the expanded self.
Yes. Love that.
And because it is now, but last year was truly, it was so strange. It was like, for all these years, he kept getting closer and closer and closer until one time I even knew that's me. But what does that mean? I just thought it was a vision. I didn't understand. And then when he had a full blown conversation with me, when I was working with psilocybin and ayahuasca, a full blown conversation where I'm asking him questions. I can see where he is, what he's wearing, and still saying to myself, is this real? And he's like, shut the fuck up, like accept it.
Yeah.
And he was like, even if this isn't real, you're making it real. Play along, you dumbass. And I
Yeah.
was just like, okay. He was like, I'm really deep in meditation and I've come back to find you. And then in the Bufo experience, it was like I got to see myself aging all the way to 90 and then all the way back to 31 at the time.
Uh-huh.
And it was just like mesmerizing, but you can't unsee that. You can
No.
unsee wrinkles and age spots on your hand as real as I'm seeing it now. That was new. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. You can't go back.
No. That's the thing is like you think about like, oh, like someone you tell someone that like that must have been freaking you out. And like, yes, okay. And there's on the other side of it, there's this sense of calm and peace that comes over you. Like for me, I was in the Peruvian jungle for 3 weeks. The middle night of ayahuasca, it's 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just took my second cup. And all of a sudden the Maloka lights up like it's daylight, like right now. And I was at that moment when I fell off because I fell off a balcony in 2009, hammered drunk, and I had no idea about what had happened. Like I just knew I fell off the balcony, woke up in the trauma unit. In a flash of light, suicide attempt. And so everyone's like, "Oh my God, you must have been freaking out." I was like, "Actually, I took a big deep breath, and I was like, thank you for showing me that, and like letting me know that's where I was, and the levels of shame, and like all the things that I needed to see in that moment. It
Yeah.
gave me so much peace and relief. It was like it was literally the trauma of that just washed out of my body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that and that was working with ayahuasca. Yes.
Ayahuasca, yeah,
Yes, and just such a beautiful experience because your experience with Aya is different than Bufo.
yeah,
They love that we're working with all of them. They're different teachers, just like Archangel Michael's not jealous of Raphael and
yeah,
Uriel. They're not jealous of each other. There's a harmony, and there's certain times when our little boy needs that grandmother energy, you know?
totally,
So it allows you to have this multi-dimensional landscape or different apps that you get to use in your
yeah,
software that do different things, not for
yeah,
you, but with you, and to allow that experience to happen because you needed to receive that. So there was something very feminine that needed to happen on your end that
yeah.
a lot of males really, just like iboga as well. A lot of males, when they work with ayahuasca, it feels like an assault. Okay.
Yep, I've heard that.
Because who wants a strong feminine energy coming in exposing their shit when you've got this programming built in around
Yeah,
what that means about you, especially like when people microdose my blend that has iboga in it or do work with iboga. The females tend to have a more of a resistance to it, and he's very masculine and she's very feminine. And I find Bufo to be like the mushrooms, very non-binary, although
yeah.
it is a masculine energy. I think it took that on, or I'm not sure how it works, but maybe it's the male frog that it comes from.
A male frog, or maybe I feel like it's infused with the energy of the Comcac Indian Seri tribe, Sonoran Desert. I feel
Yeah,
like I mean Mother Earth, but I feel like there's a masculine essence to a desert,
yeah,
and I feel like and this is the thing about like we can talk about like synthetic forms of these medicines or organic.
Yeah.
Um, Synthetic just misses the spirits. They
That's
miss the
right.
spirit
That's
of the toad, the spirit of the vine, the spirit of
yes.
the fruit of
Yeah.
of the mushroom.
Mhm.
You can't replicate that. And like without that spirit of the desert or the Amazon or the town in Mexico where the mushrooms come from, like you can't replicate that spirit no matter what you do. And that's the magic of these medicines.
Yes, and that's what I teach people. You know, you are not allowed to drink your cup or take whatever I've given you unless you've made contact with that plant spirit.
Oh,
And we're just really cut off from that idea. So many people come to me and they don't even consider themselves psychics or mediums. So to connect to an angel feels more safe or less foreign than connecting
yeah.
to the spirit of a plant. It's so odd, the way our ego can structure things. And this is an important conversation to have because it's the plant spirit that continues to come to you in your meditation or oftentimes in your freak out in the bathroom when you're screaming. I'm talking about my experience. You're screaming and crying and there's this input that comes in. Those mushrooms will come in without you needing to take them anymore because you now have created a contract and a relationship with them that transcends space and time. But you did have to say yes.
Yeah.
You did have to earn it, but you had to agree, and because you are sovereign. But like MDMA, for instance, the MDMA experience is beautiful, and it's the practitioner or the therapist that is most of the medicine in that experience.
Yep.
So I love mixing like Blue Lotus with MDMA because she'll ride that experience of MDMA and give it a different energy. So synthetic compounds are not bad, but just know they are missing they're not in their whole state. Just like beets are so good for you, but most of the white sugar that we have is made from beets. Coca leaves are beautiful for you. Cocaine, your body has a different response to it.
Slightly,
Okay?
yeah.
Yeah, slightly. But these things can still be used with intention, because here's where I want to leave this is we are the medicine.
I hope.
And
That's
that's
it.
what's missing in many psychedelic circles as well, is that there's a power they feel with the medicine, but also, I have these medicines all over the walls here in my retreat center. And I had to tell myself, don't get people worshiping these things, honor them. This is not a worship fest, because they're just going to remind you that you're the medicine anyway. You're the medicine so much that you can go to outer space and back, and the person next to you at the ayahuasca retreat can be like, all I did was throw up. Because you drove, she just revved you up. Okay?
Yep. 100%.
That piece that we're missing is I went into the Bufo experience wanting to surrender and being totally ready for that. And I participated in it. Even the parts where I was like, what is happening? Why is my hand going here? And why is it going here? I also was like wanting it.
Yeah. And that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like that. And that's the reverence of the path. That's like knowing that these medicines will find you exactly when you're ready for them and not before. And not to rush into them, and to honor the work we get to do as humans, because there's like you said, lots of medicine in our bodies already. And the medicine is sitting down and looking yourself in the mirror and saying, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then you do that. And then the medicines then you actually get to sit with the medicine when you want to surrender and the expectations are low. If you're going in with expectations, you got more work to do as a human.
Yeah. And it can only meet us where we've met ourselves.
Totally.
I also want to touch on real quick about medicines choosing us, especially medicines choosing us. Like when you told me ayahuasca chose you, I'd been told that before, but when someone says it, and for some reason when they say it, it hits you different.
Yeah.
It hit me so different. I finally accepted. I went outside and I just was like, thank you, grandmother, instead of why me? Why me? Or they could possibly be. I'm not Peruvian. I'm not, as if that's the only people now. This is a different age that we're entering in. So although we must have reverence and honor for where it has come from, and I'm all about because I can call grandmother in to a psilocybin experience that people come up to me and they go, "Did you give me grandmother?" as if it's a bad thing. And I thought they were going to get off easy that night. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Not in your cup." And they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "I got it right around my neck right here." Okay.
Yeah.
So, and not even because of that, but because once you embody them and you work with them and really honor them and understand their energy, they start to flow through you, because we're magical wizards and shamans and witches, and we can hold these medicines within us as part of our template as well, because
Yeah.
we're one with them. It's a relationship that we have. And speaking of relationships, I want
Yes.
to talk a little bit about relationships with you, because I know you're a relationship coach. And
Yes.
this is coming from the male perspective. This is really important right now. Tell us about what you do in that arena.
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been essentially a lifelong learning for me. What I do is the men that I work with. So I do two things. If it's a feminine that's having trouble trusting the masculine, what I'll do is I essentially will hold a space for the feminine energy, the feminine identified partner, and allow her to express all the masculine wounding and work through that and process that in a very safe place. It's very unstructured. It's a space where we get to, for 3 months, get to go wherever she needs to go. And I will help her to feel safe with a masculine and to process out of her body the things that she's been holding on to, so that she can, because a lot of men do have great women, but they still have this, "I don't trust you."
Right.
And the man does everything he can. And the woman still has these walls up. To break
Yeah.
down those walls and let that man in takes letting go of the wounds, the stories, the programs, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So that's what I do when I work with women and couples too. When I work with men, which is my real, like, this is why I'm here on earth, is to work with these men to learn how to meticulously create a relationship culture that supports everybody involved: women, children, dogs, whatever it is. Because when the man is responsible for the container, just like the shaman is responsible for the ceremony container.
Yeah.
The man is responsible for, and the woman, it's not like the woman is just there. This is an input thing where the man can feel the woman's needs and desires, and she can speak them out loud, and he pays attention, and it creates the culture with everything considered. This is the masculine, the consciousness, the 360 awareness that is the all. It's that walking into a room and being aware of the room and being aware of the city that you're in, the state you're in, the country that you're in, the planet that you're on. Like, cultivating this awareness is where the masculine gets to come to a relationship and say, I'm holding a container of truth, authenticity, desire, passion, whatever the collective of the us decides wants to be present. How does the masculine hold that pole of creating creating the container, holding the culture of the container to the highest standard possible, so that the woman doesn't feel like she has to hold it all together, because that's where women are right now.
Yes.
They feel like they have to hold it all together because the men are not showing up. The men are just falling short because they're not trying. They're in fear, they're in anger, they're in resentment, they're not enough story. And so the woman is like, well, I have to hold this whole entire relationship together, including motherhood if there's kids involved, including your wounded masculine that you're not doing anything about. Handle your wounded masculine, meticulously create a culture of safety is really what it comes down to in that relationship, and hold that.
Yeah. That's what I find the most, is that there's little boys running around everywhere pretending to be what they think a man should be. And that is keeping this density going longer. The women are ready. They've been ready.
And you said it best, like, what they think a man should be, that's all up here. There's no embodiment there. And I fell into that trap earlier this year of like, oh, I know all the things and I can teach another man to do this. I wasn't doing any of it. I was all up in my head, and it caused destruction of my relationship, like literal destruction and pain to a lot of people. And so, like, and then I had like pretty much a 2x4 to the side of the head, like, wake the fuck up. And I wake up and I got out of my head and I just dropped into my body. And like, this is what men need to know, in a very short period of time, getting into the body, the results are fucking phenomenal. Like, when you can get out of that, like, I think I should do this, I think I need to be this, No, feel it, lead with your heart and be it. Like, and it's hard, but when you
Yeah.
do it, everything just falls in. It literally falls into your lap.
Yes.
The
Yes.
money, the girl, the love, the body, all of it.
This is happening for me as well, because you mentioned something, and there's going to be a lot of people who are like, wait, he's a healer. They're healers and they're still going through stuff. Get
Yeah.
over yourselves. That's why this is Chronicles of Chyron. He's known as
Yeah.
the wounded healer. Okay.
Yeah.
We are transcending that program of needing to be wounded to heal somebody and to want to keep going with that. But we've all come to that place. And the fact that we're still continuing to do the work and that we're still illustrating that there's embodiment still coming in means that we are not the gods that you need to be worshiping. We are ahead of you in line just a little bit. And
Yeah.
we're totally ready for you to cut us. Okay. Do it.
Yeah.
Dare you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing and being vulnerable during this time and sharing all of your mess and all of your power with us. This was really incredible, and I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, first of all, I want to say thank you. What an incredible space you've created. This conversation, it felt so grounded and flowy and good, and just, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we covered everything. I don't have anything to add.
One last question for you, and I ask
Okay.
everyone on this show, what do you feel that your role is in the ascension process that we're going through right now?
My role in this ascension process is to get the masculine identified, the males, back into their body,
Beautiful.
back into the heart. Get over yourself. I mean, you can call it anything you want. It's men need to make a decision to be what we just talked about. Create the container, create the structure, create the place for the women to come, because the women are getting tired and they have other things to do than hold this thing together.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for stepping into your role, because things are on the upswing. But
Yeah.
because of that, it's getting more real. Okay.
Yes.
We've been saying it for 11 years now. It's getting more real. It's getting more intense. Yes, it is. But this is less of a blow to the chest or the stomach, and this is more of a building towards a huge galactic orgasm that we're having.
Yeah.
We're having, so that actually the pleasure is also building as well. So thank
Yes.
you for following the call. Thank you for not dying
You're
physically.
welcome. Yeah.
And thank you for showing up here today and sharing all of your magic with us. This was really powerful. Tell people how they can find you, your social media,
Yeah.
where they can find you to work with you as well.
Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you in both ways, like me working with you on the astrology stuff, you work with me in it's been magical. So thank you for that too.
You're welcome.
Find me on Instagram is the best place, at Sam Gibbs Morris. That's GIBBS, Sam Gibbs Morris. The website is the same, samgibbsmorris.com.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you again for showing gratitude to me, because I feel it just as much back,
Thank
and
you.
for really holding the space for all these males to ascend and level up and step into a higher octave, and kind of a return to what once was.
Yes.
Thank you for restoring a template that we very much need. All of these links will be found in the show notes below. Please go follow Sam on Instagram at Sam Gibbs Morris, and go to his website where you can find all of his offerings and how to work with him there. Thank you, Sam, for being here, and thank you all for sharing space and being open. We'll hear from you next time on the Chronicles of Chyron. Have a good day.